Okay, so what came in the packet, as I said, is a 20 litre and a bonus 5 litre one here. Okay, so just up, they look, let's start with the 5 litre, okay, because there's nothing really much that can go wrong with these things. It's 500 denier PVC canvas, and it's pretty much constructed like any other dry bag. And I've got some stuff gear in there now, and that looks to be okay. That's what you want, something like that. There's no, it's so small, there's no D-ring on this. This is to be something you shove in a pack or in the bottom of a kayak or canoe, but there's no way of attaching anything other than through the loop itself there. So you have to be careful you don't lose that down the river, but that would go in a pack, and that looks okay, and we'll test that in a little while. The other one, this 20 litre one, okay, so what we've got here is what's a little bit different on the 20 litre one. Let's have a closer look at that. Just unscrew that off the bag itself. So it comes off the bag. There's the outside. You see some of the clothes inside the bag there. Okay, so this appears to be a silicone rubber. It's quite thin, this thing, and it's not protected on the inside whatsoever from clothes or anything rubbing up against that. Okay, let's put that back in there. And they say basically to let the air out of the bag. When you can jump on the bag. They don't say to jump on the bag, but you can, the usual thing with these dry bags is to sit on the bag or whatever, throw all the air out, and then you tighten this thing up like this on there. And the purpose, you might be asking, well, what's the purpose of this outer valve? The purpose of the outer valve is that they say you can blow air back into here to inflate the bag. Now, it has to be pointed out, this bag is not a life preserver whatsoever. Okay, to be honest, I'm not too keen about this valve sitting out here on the bag, because it's something that can get knocked, bumped, caught up in things. It detracts away from the smooth surface of these things, which I think is important on a dry bag to have that kind of thing there happening. So I'm not too keen on that. I don't know how long that will last up for, or it gets knocked and it simply comes undone. Dirt, grit, sand, all things associated with the water and outdoor activities where you would use one of these bags. Anyway, the other thing with this bag is, let's just turn it over here, is that you've got here a plastic window. And the idea here is they say that you can look at your gear which is in there, so it's easier to see. To be honest, again, I think this is a little, it's already got a dent in it there, just sitting here on the ground. The material is not 500 denier thickness, this plastic in here. To me, this feels kind of pretty weak, and that would easily have a small sand grain or stone penetrate that when that's being abraded. If that lays down on that surface in the bottom of your kayak or canoe, or in the, possibly it'd be better protected inside of a pack, but if that's laying on the surface of a high density polyethylene kayak, canoe, or fiberglass, and bits of sand come between that, I'm sure that would wear through pretty quick smart. That's quite thin, that, and I'm not so keen on the idea of that. So for long term, it seems to me that this is the next weakest point in terms of ingression of water in there. The top, up the top, is pretty much like any roll top bag in this kind of price range, and it seems okay to me. And you've got some buckles, here, a strap rather, that goes onto a D-ring, and we're going to be throwing these things around in a minute and see how they hold up. So, right, the general construction seems pretty well made here. You've got a good bar tacking here, the standard cross. It seems, everything seems pretty well made on there. As I said, I'd be a bit worried just about having, see, this has already got, in the dirt here, it's already got dirt and crap all over it, so you've got to be careful about this purge valve. I don't like that on there. But let's have a look at these things in action. Okay. And we'll go up one more time. Okay, right, so what's happened is, as you saw, I threw the bags in a few times in there and then hauled them up a bit of a muddy bank covered in weeds and that. And you can see here, on here, this valve has really collected a lot of mud and crap which has come on there. That's going to take make the valve a weak spot on the bag. This 500 denier PVC coated nylon, there's really not much that can go wrong with that. It's pretty strong. It's proven on truck construction for truck tarpaulins for many, many years. This small bag here, no problems with that. The clothes look dry in here. This hasn't sustained any injury. I thought that might have. It's quite thin on there. Normally I would have these packs inside of a bag. It would be really, if it was, had to haul them across a river, what I would do is I'd have them in a bag, or they'd be floating on the surface anyway. I'd be very careful of pulling them up along a really stony bank. Okay, right, okay, let's have a look inside of these things and see, stinging needles, to see whether they kept the clothes dry. This one I have no problems in thinking it would have. And okay, there's a little bit, okay, yeah, these got a bit wet. Okay, they're wet up there. The bag's actually wet. Yeah, the bag is actually wet in there. Not much water. Not much. Okay, a little bit of water in there. Yep. Alright. That's not that great. And I had that folded over several times in there. Okay. These things are not waterproof, okay? None of these dry bags are really waterproof. That's what you do have to bear in mind. And normally if you had this, probably wouldn't be throwing them in so violent like that, subjecting them to that violent nature. But normally they would be inside of a pack. Okay, you must make sure you fold them over properly and you've got them upright. And then if they can probably undergo partial submersion very, very quickly, as in jumping off a waterfall in a canyon or whatever. But they're not designed to go underwater and stay underwater and stay completely waterproof. It's meant to keep rubbish stuff off there. Certainly better than a garbage bag, stronger than a garbage bag. Okay, so that's just the caveat there when you're using these kind of bags for outdoor extreme use. Let's have a look at this big bag and see how well it fared, whether the clothes are wet in here or not. And there's a little bit of water in there. The inside is wet, not much. So yeah, my clothes are a little bit, just a couple of sprays of water in there. Okay, so let's have a look in there. So you might be able to see that there. Let's get the camera on that. There is a bit of water in there, some splashes of water. The clothes aren't, let's see if we can see in there. The clothes are not wet, not like the small bag. A few drops of water on there essentially kept them dry on there with that activity. Let's put my hand right down the bottom now and feel around the valve if there's any water ingression in there. No, that is completely dry down there. There's no moisture in there at all near the valve. That's something I would expect with that treatment like that. Kind of doesn't quite simulate jumping in off a waterfall. Okay, right, we're going to try that again. I've just rolled them back down again, and let's have a look, go again. And again. And again. Right, let's have a look. Oh, they're a bit dirty from all that mud. Let's one more time to wash them off. Right, okay, let's have a look at them. Right, okay, so that was another second time on that. Again, dragging up the bank. Valve gets covered in mud and everything. If this was sitting in the bottom of a kayak, this wouldn't make much difference if it was in a kayak, because this is not going to be, it's going to be protected. And if it's inside of a pack, it would be protected. So once it comes out, obviously it's not protected anymore. Now to me, if you're going to make a bag so strong as this on the outside, everything's got to be nice and strong. This is a very nice welded seam on here, very nicely stitched up on here too. Let's have a look in here and see how we fared with water, how much water's gone into here. Right, okay, let's have a look in here this time. How much water's in there? Yeah, well, you know, we've got some wet clothes here. They're not completely wet, but if you were really relying on the fact that this thing stays wet, or stays dry rather, I mean, if you were really relying that it stays dry, your clothes have to stay dry, like you've been canyoning, you need to put on dry clothes. Well, that's going to get a bit of water in there like that if you're treating the thing like that and it's side on. If the thing was horizontal in your pack, a quick dunking, that's probably going to be okay. The other thing what you can do is, with these things, is you turn them upside down in the pack, right? So this you put down the bottom, and then no water's going to come in, is it? Because it's got to go back, force itself up the other way. Don't put them in the pack like vertically like this. Put them in so this is at the bottom of your pack. Okay, so that's not too bad for that kind of treatment. Wouldn't expect them to be completely waterproof, but if you had to jump down several waterfalls, that might be a problem. Okay, let's have a look in this other smaller one. See that there? Can we see that on there? Right. Okay, let's have a look in here. Let's have a look. Okay, so that's not too bad. That kept a little bit drier that time. Still a little bit wet on the inside. Can you see that in there? There is a little bit of, these are a little bit wet in here, you know. So they're not waterproof, these bags, remember, they're not waterproof. They're going to protect, they're going to be stronger than a garbage bag, but I would have liked to have seen that a bit better. The whole thing which is going to keep the water out of these really is how this is sealed across the top on here. So this is rigid in here, and how that bends over and forms a seal against itself. So the only thing that can form a seal, well, there's nothing that can form a seal actually, because it's just PVC, you know, coated canvas on there. So all it is protecting against splashes really on there, and being a rugged bag as opposed to using a garbage bag on there, which obviously with that kind of treatment, the garbage bag's going to break and the whole thing is going to fall apart and you're going to lose your clothes everywhere. So these things are obviously not going to break. Now, that brings me to the point of this, and you can see here, so a closer look at this, the mud and everything, and the wear and tear on that. If that's the kind of treatment you're going to do to the bags, that's what's going to happen. Okay, now I want to test the valve here to see how waterproof this is, and let's see, there should be no bubbles coming out of it. Okay, so there's a hole in there. You can see there's a leak in the bag. It's got a deformity in the bag there already. Let's have a closer look at that. Okay, so you can see that there now. That's not so good, that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is check this valve and see how the valve is. Now, there's no air coming out of that valve, so the valve is doing its job. Absolutely. All right, nothing coming out of that. That's okay. So it was let down by easily getting a hole in it, just by simply dragging it up the bank. Now, I'm going to show you what the bank looks like. So, let's have a look at that. Hold on. Try and do that here. Right, here's the bank. So this is the bank here. There's the water. There's the tripod, just so you know I'm standing where I was before. And this is the bank, and here is the tree where I was throwing it in the water. So the bank is pretty muddy, right? And I don't see any really sharp objects here. There could have been just small stones on there. There you go, that's the top of the bank. And yeah, it's not sharp rocks or anything like that coming out of there. So a simple muddy bank. If you had to haul the packs up a simple muddy bank, it's got a hole in it already from that. Okay, Okay, right, so now I'm going to test the seals in this one. We're just going to, the 5 litre one, this is the bonus bag. We're just going to shove that underwater there like that. And just clean off the mud. And that is, yeah, there's absolutely no leaks in that. And that was getting the same treatment as the other bag. You saw me throw both in together, haul both up together. You know, there's no damage to this. There's no damage to this bag on here. It didn't sustain anything. So it could have been a fault. I didn't test the bags when they were completely brand new to see whether or not they had any pinholes in them. Maybe I should have, but anyway, yeah. So if the bag is put into the pack like this, no water can enter the bag, because this is like a flotation device in this case. But as I said, they're not recommended as flotation devices. But if you pack them in your bag like this, no water can get into them. And this is the right way to pack them in the bag, like that, okay? Okay, right, so this is the summary of these bags, TCT. And I didn't say it at the beginning, but the manufacturer, they contacted me and asked me to review them. So I don't have a problem with the 5 litre bag. You know, it's basically all constructed from this 500 denier, according to them, PVC coated canvas. The only thing is on the bottom, this is a different material than this other stuff, and it doesn't feel as thick as this stuff here. You know, I'm not sure why they didn't use the same material here at the bottom for the bag. I don't know about that, but anyway, yeah, okay, so it didn't spring a leak around those seams. All the seams seem to be welded quite well. So yeah, that was the 5 litre bag. Now I just marked on here, see this arrow, because it was such a small pinprick sort of hole here. Now I don't know whether that was something that occurred from me dragging the bag up the bank, because it just looked like a muddy bank to me. It's possible that it did. I would have, you know, maybe there was a thorn or something sticking out there in the bank, I don't know. But anyway, I wouldn't have expected that. You saw the video that it just get penetrated so easily, and and there the you can see that bit of whiteness there for where it did. Let's take a closer look at that. Really hard to see. That's it there. Okay, it's very, very small, but nonetheless that went straight through. So that kind of marred things, that having a small leak in it like that. Surprisingly, the window didn't fail on me. I thought maybe it would have, and also I thought the valve would have leaked, and it didn't leak either. The valve was okay, and it got abused quite heavily, I guess, dragging on the mud. That's why I was surprised about whether or not this may have been a defect in the bag, and not something I dragged, because most of the time you see it was being dragged up on this side, on the valve side, and that meant that this is uppermost. So that was strange that that could happen like that a couple of times. So it did go on this surface, and as I said before, to me this doesn't feel, maybe it is, I don't know, but it's not exactly the same as this red material. That's clear, because this is laminated exactly the same on both sides, and it feels very, very thick. This feels a bit thinner, this material here, and if you look, it's shiny on the inside like this other stuff, but it feels a bit thinner. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so it got a hole in it like that very easily. There was nowhere did this, you know, when this was being dragged up on this side, has this got any pinprick holes in it? I would have expected something like that to happen if it was going to go through there, and clearly this is probably a little bit more susceptible to damage for sure on that. Anyway, so there you have it, TCT brand dry bags. Thanks very much for watching. Bush Camping Tools here.